going somewhere to hike that I've never hiked before. It's going to require a few different plane changes and a lot of travel, but I think it's going to be worth it to hike the highest point between the Pyrenees and the Rocky Mountains. When I first planned this trip, I was hoping to beat the first snowfall of the year, but as you can see, I did not do that. But it was beautiful. It was beautiful. The drive in here on the spectacular road through the mountains was just breathtaking. The trailhead started by this beautiful lake, man-made lake that happened when they dammed up the creek here in the 1890s, but it started snowing and I wasn't sure whether I should go up to the summit. I just wanted to be prudent, so I got a weather report, and looking at the hourly, it looked like it was going to clear up shortly. I've never hiked anywhere around here, so I wasn't sure what to expect in terms of the trails, but they were all well marked, and right from the beginning of the hike, the scenery was just incredible. The mountain range where I'm hiking is this island in the middle of all these plains, and the granite here is some of the oldest in the country. Over the last 1.6 billion years, it's all been eroded, and it's formed these needles formations, which are very unique and obviously fun to look at. And while my eyes were up staring at these unique rock formations, below them, these guys were staring at me. All right, all that flying was to get here. I'm so excited to be in a new place, hiking in a new place. It's always super exciting. And I was trying to get here before the snow got here to bag this peak, but I didn't quite make it. It was snowing on the drive up here. The trail is fairly icy. I just started, and I think it's going to be okay though. If it's not, I'll just, stop and go back. But I'm excited to show you the summit if you've been following along, because this one's a little bit different than what I've been doing before. So let me get hiking so I can show you what this trail is all about. One of the things I love about hiking in the fresh snow is you can see all of these animal tracks, and I saw a ton of them. The animals were out before me. I saw deer, rabbits, coyotes, and some things I didn't even know what they were. The first landmark along the hike is Cathedral Spires, and this is the only registered national natural landmark anywhere near here, even though there's obviously lots of neat natural landmarks here. But really cool, a popular place for rock climbing, and obviously really neat to look at too. This hike is beautiful, but I have a downhill and I'm crawling because it is a sheet of ice here in the shade. We're probably still in the high 20s in terms of temperature. And obviously it snowed and thawed and frozen here. So it's slow going, but it's okay. It's a relatively short hike, and I don't have to be anywhere anytime soon. As I hiked, I saw all of these dead trees, these dead ponderosa pines, and after finding an interpretive display, I found out it's from the mountain pine beetle. The pine beetle gets in here, the trees die within a year, and a lot of these dead logs get pulled out of here by helicopters used for logging afterwards. One of the things I've really been liking is using my Apple Watch Ultra 2 with the Footpath app. It's been a while since I've been on a hike with it, and the map is great. It redraws, it tells you your distance. Turn alerts have been great, and I love the kind of Climb Pro feature where it pops up on the climb, color codes it based on how steep it is, just like it does on a Garmin or other devices, but because it's on an Apple Watch, it's a little bit smoother and quicker. I've also been using my Garmin GPSMAP 67i, which I haven't had out in a while because it's been summer. In the good weather, I don't really bring it much, but it was snowing this morning, and just having that big screen has been so helpful. I think this is like Garmin's sweet spot, this kind of device. Big screen, all the trail names were on the device, preloaded, but the Apple Watch Ultra and this thing combined, that's a pretty good combo for me. And if you haven't figured out where I am already, maybe this clue will help. And of course, in the Black Mountain Hills of Dakota lived a young boy named Rocky Raccoon, if you know what I'm talking about. As I approached the summit, the trail got steeper, and of course, when it gets steeper and you go higher, you get great views. Here, we got great views into the vast plains surrounding us. If you saw that trail name, Grizzly Trail, and got worried about bears, there are no bears here. Last grizzlies were killed here in the 1890s, I think. If you ever read any Teddy Roosevelt from when he was in North Dakota, he talks about the ranchers killing grizzlies with strychnine because they would kill their cattle and livestock. So no bears, even black bears aren't around here. There's been, I think, 10 or 12 sightings in the last several years, but I read somewhere that statistically it's probably not even real. There haven't been any official sightings of a black bear. What you can see, deer, I've seen some deer already, and there are mountain goats and bighorn, also elk. I'm not sure if elk are up this high, but I'd love to see some bighorn or mountain goats. So still have some more miles on this trail. Let's see what the future holds. The last half mile or so up to the summit was really spectacular. There's these rock steps, great viewpoints, obviously, out among all this granite, and eventually the summit came into view. That's the famous tower up top where we're going to be going when we bag this peak. And I love this last little stretch which went into the granite here, little tunnel, and you come out and you climb over these little stairways and everything to get up to the summit area. Really neat, really well-built trail. And after all the ice and the snow and the climbing, I finally reached my destination, Black Elk Peak, the highest point between the Pyrenees and the Rockies, also the highest point in the state of South Dakota. So with another state high point in the bag, I went to explore the fire tower, which is incredible. This was built by the CCC in 1939, and it's called the Harney Peak Lookout. This was called Harney Peak before it was called Black Elk Peak, named after an Army general who fought against the natives here. And in the Lakota language, I think his nickname was Woman Killer, so not a popular guy. And now it's been renamed to Black Elk Peak. But the fire tower is awesome. You can go inside and explore around, and lots to see and do in here. How cool is this? This hike is incredible. Highly recommend it. On the way back down, we're going to take a different route. On the number 9 trail, we're going to get some great views of more needles. This loop route was recommended to me by a local supporter, so thank you for recommending this. I'm going to spend some more time up at the summit looking around, and then I'm going to head back to the beginning. And I also have more hikes planned today, so don't think it all ends here. We're going to spot some wildlife, we're going to see some sights, and tomorrow I might just bag another peak. So let's look around here and then head back down. Enjoy the views up at the top of the summit, and then you can keep exploring. If you go down to the front of it, there's a viewing platform where you can walk out front and get some epic shots of the tower behind you. And then you can keep going downstairs within the tower. There's some stairs that go down. You go out this door here. This is not a warning to not go out. It just says be careful. And when you go out here, there are some more areas to explore, little structures and everything. And these colored flags that you see are Lakota prayer flags. This is a sacred spot for the Lakota, and it was said that Black Elk, who came up here when he was a child, envisioned the tragic future of the Lakota people who were here. And Black Elk was in the Battle of Little Bighorn and also a cousin of Crazy Horse. I spent a long time at the summit, but I had to call it a day. I have other things on the agenda to do today, so I went back down these really cool stairs through that little granite grotto that I showed you earlier. What a cool summit, huh? I just met another hiker who just got there when I was leaving. The only other person I've seen today. She came up the number 9 trail, said it was a sheet of ice. So that's the one I'm going to go down. So we'll see what happens. Worst case, just go slow and maybe go along the side of the trail. There's snow coming, starting to snow around me too. So hopefully it doesn't get too crazy, but not too much farther, about 3.5 miles. And then I'll be back at the trailhead. So let's go. Well, as you can see, I was not able to outrun the snow, but it wasn't too bad. Here comes the snow, do-do-do-do. Here comes the snow, and I said, wow, look at that view. On the way back, you go right by Little Devil's Tower, which is obviously a climbing destination, named Little Devil's Tower after the larger Devil's Tower National Monument in nearby Wyoming. And when I say nearby, that's like American West nearby, which is a few hours away. It was also neat on the way back. You can get nice views of the fire tower where we climbed, and the hike back was pretty uneventful until I hit that sheet of ice that the other hiker had told me about earlier, and then it got a little bit slower. One lesson I've learned on this icy descent was, number 1, bring microspikes, but number 2, if you follow the animal tracks, they're in the side on the soft snow, because obviously the animals will slip on the ice too. So I'm just following the animal tracks to make my way safely down this icy descent here. After 7 miles or so, I finally got back to the trailhead at Custer State Park. All right, that took me a lot longer because of all that ice, and I crawled along. I think my pace was under 2 miles an hour. So now I got to boogie down about 45 minutes to a place I didn't even know existed, a national park. I believe it's a national park, might be a monument. I'll tell you on the road, I'll look it up. But I'm gonna boogie down there to try to get a hike in. Sunset's at 4:30, so I don't have a lot of time, so let's boogie. The drive out of the Black Hills was a lot easier. The snow had melted a bit, but the views were still good. Drove through the town of Custer, which is a little tourist town. There's a lot of tourist infrastructure here, and I'd imagine in the summer it gets pretty busy. It was snowing again as I drove to the next destination. I was a little confused. There's a Jewel Cave National Monument, but I was going to the nearby Wind Cave National Park. The cave was closed on this day, but it was okay because I was coming here to do a hike. All right, I'm at the trailhead. I'm excited to stretch my legs. I'm at this Norbeck Dam. What's cool about this is a terminus of the Centennial Trail, which is a 111-mile trail through South Dakota that they made to honor its 100th year, I think, of statehood anniversary. We're not going to take that. That trail is right up here, but instead we're going to head into Lookout Point and go to see where the bison herd are. Hopefully we'll see some bison, maybe not too close, but from a distance would be cool. So let's boogie. Oh boy. Oh boy. It's not human. If it is human, I take my hat off to whoever that is. At least it's so big that you're not going to step in it, or it's hard to step in it. Oh, there's another one. There's another one there. All right, well, that's exciting. Almost like seeing a bison. This is my first time hiking on the Great Plains, and it was beautiful. I'm so glad I came and did this because it was much different than my last hike. These rolling plains, expansive views. You could see the clouds in the distance. I didn't see any bison so far, but I did find a bone from a bison. And I did see these prairie dog holes. I didn't see any prairie dogs. I'm guessing they're not out in the winter. I don't know. If you know, let me know in the comments, but didn't see any wildlife on the hike out. You can see all of these informal trails, and these are animal trails, probably bison for sure. I don't think there's enough people to be making all of these trails, but you can see, you can follow them through the grass, how they've trampled it. Pretty neat. And as I approached Lookout Peak, which is up in front of me there, I had to go off trail a little bit to get up to the summit. Not a huge deal. Summit's probably a strong word here. But once I got up to the top, the views were nice. I looked around for more bison. I couldn't find any. But what I did see back towards the trailhead was dark skies, more snow coming in. So I decided to just turn around and hoof it back. And then on my way back, guess what I saw? There are bison. Now, I've seen bison on Catalina before, just I think a few of them, never this many. And it was a little unnerving to be that close. They were looking at me. I don't think they really cared, but you could see them kind of looking at me. And they were making their way towards the direction where I had to go, the trail, and I didn't want to get blocked in. So I just, I kind of hustled a little bit to get around them, but really cool. All right, just started snowing. Sun's about to go down. And I got about 5-10 minutes to go to the car. So I made it, and I saw some bison. How awesome was that? I'm so grateful I was able to see them. But just because the sun's going down doesn't mean the day is going to end. I still have one more stop to make, so let's go. Luckily, I didn't get caught out in the heavier snow on the trail. I beat it back, but I drove through it. And on the way, I saw this mountain in the distance, and I pulled in here. They were nice enough to let me come in and check it out. It was closing in a couple minutes, but I was able to drive up and see the Crazy Horse Memorial. Now, this was started in 1948, and eventually this will be a Crazy Horse on an actual horse, but really neat. I got to come back here next time. The sun went down before I got to my next destination, which was Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore, you can see I have it all to myself. If you come here on a cold, snowy weekday night in the winter, you can have it to yourself. I can only imagine what it's like in the summer with busloads of people, but there it is. It was really cool to see after having seen it in so many times over the years in media and books and movies, and see it in real life was impressive. And of course, when you leave, you exit through the gift store. Tomorrow, I've got a big day planned. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. I might change it up because I am exhausted. I only did around 11 miles today, but I think just being out in the cold and especially having to concentrate on the ice for a few miles, just watch every step, that like level of focus kind of drains you a bit. So I feel a little drained, so we'll see what's going to happen tomorrow, but I'm definitely going to go somewhere, and it's not going to be probably something that you're going to expect. So keep watching. And I just want to mention those Norda 1 shoes that I talked about earlier. They were great. These might be the most comfortable shoes I've ever worn. I might just wear these every day. Really grippy. They handle themselves well on the dirt, the slush, the snow, the granite, and my feet feel great. Just really comfortable. Not cheap, but I heard they last really long. The upper and the laces, I think, too, are made out of Dyneema, which is what they make like those tents and backpacks out of. So kudos to Norda, obviously not sponsored or anything. And my Patagonia Nano Puff jacket, which I've had for years and they've been around for years, was great. I was out in the cold and the snow and it kept me warm. All I had on was that Nano Puff and this light cool hoodie, and it worked great as well. All my gear stuff, obviously my gear page, you can check that out if you want. But anyway, I'm gonna finish this beer, I'm gonna eat a pizza, and I'm going to pass out, and I will see you in the morning. Normally I wouldn't drive 3 hours one way, so 6 hours total to go do a short hike, but this is a special one. You'll see in a second. I've got a long drive ahead of me. I'm going across the Great Plains, and I left super early, and it's been really windy, kind of blowing around the road here, but the drive so far has been beautiful. There's not much to say about the next 4 hours of driving, aside from the fact that it looked like this, with 3 or 4 gas stations along the way. Last couple miles were on a dirt road, which was nice, and eventually I reached my destination, White Butte, or as my 8-year-old son would call it, White Butte. All that driving was to get here, North Dakota's Highpoint, White Butte, which is behind me. It's even covered in some fog like a true Highpoint would be, even though it's not that big of a climb. 3,506 feet, and this climb is only a few hundred feet to get to the top. But it is freezing. It is freezing. It's North Dakota. It's early November. I thought it might be a little bit warmer, but with the wind chill, I can't even talk. With the wind chill, it's in the 20s. It is freezing, so let me hustle and get up there so I can get back in the car and go find a hot coffee. One of the interesting things about White Butte is that it's on private land. It's privately owned lands, and the landowners allow high pointers to come here and hike up to White Butte, so big thank you to them. They maintain all of this, the gate, the trails, the infrastructure. There is a little donation box if you want to say thank you. But overall, these trails were well maintained and some of the best I've ever seen. Years ago, when I saw the Coen Brothers movie Fargo, I thought, well, this is probably exaggerated for cinematic effect, but I can confirm that it's really, really cold here. I can only imagine what it's like in the dead of winter. Now, shooting video for this, making trail guides, and I'll have those up in the near future. It was so windy that my camera got blown down. Now, normally you'd put a sandbag under the tripod to hold it down, but I don't have that kind of thing with me. But luckily, the camera remained intact, just a little sandy. I was able to wipe it off and keep shooting. On a shot shortly after that, I thought I found a place sheltered from the wind for the tripod, but I turned around and boom, once again, I have broken the camera. This time it's cracked the cover on front of the lens. That's why you get a cheap UV lens filter protector so you don't break the actual lens, but this camera was out of commission for now. All right, enough about my camera problems. Back to the hike. This hike was beautiful. It's not long and there's only a few hundred feet of climbing, but the trail was well maintained. The topography was this Badlands type thing going on, and it was just beautiful. It was really fun to hike, and I was wishing it was a little bit nicer out so I could enjoy it a little bit more. And as I approached the top, the wind and the weather got pretty intense. I felt like I was climbing Ben Nevis in January or something. Pretty extreme here, but eventually I got up to the summit, which was well maintained. There's a little bench, a trail register, and I was able to bag my next 50-state high pointer, White Butte, North Dakota, in the bag, all done. And unfortunately, the views from the summit were fairly non-existent today, so I just decided to call it a day and boogie back down to the trailhead because I was pretty cold at this point. What an adventure that was. Who knew just a short little hike would be so epic. Beautiful hike, beautiful trail, but the conditions are crazy. I got to look at windy and see what it is after this, what it's blowing. But just shows you that anything can be an adventure. It doesn't have to be a big, long hike. And I've done Mount Whitney many times, and the summit has been way more hospitable than it was here at White Butte. All right, I got to get driving. I think I have about 4 hours of driving, and I'm fighting sunlight again. We're going to go to a national park, another one, and check that out. So let me make sure the camera isn't totally thrashed, and then we'll get going. The scale of this drive was pretty massive, pretty epic. You just drive for hours and there's nothing. I think there were 4 small towns along the way that each had a gas station, but no fast food or anything like that. Luckily, I had some books on tape to get me through, and it was just nice to be somewhere different. As I got closer, I pulled over to this little mountain here. There's a little turnout and some historical markers about some settlers who were killed coming out on this trail here, and also a historical marker for Sturgis. If you're familiar with motorcycles, Sturgis is right around here. All that motorcycle stuff is there, but I really liked this Bear Butte, it's called, and you can actually hike it. I was just looking on all trails. I didn't have time today to do it, but it looks like a fun one to do. And you know, as you go through this area, there's all this motorcycle stuff for Sturgis too. I got the window open because it's like 37 degrees out. It's like Florida compared to North Dakota where I just was. Beautiful road though. This road is spectacular. I just, even though I've been driving all day, it's been a pleasure. It's just been such a great landscape to watch go by and drive through. And with an hour and a half of sunlight left, I got to my last destination of the trip, Badlands National Park. Now, Badlands National Park is kind of a car-centric park. There are some longer trails that you can hike. I didn't really have time to do that on this trip, but I did want to drive through the park and check out some of the roadside attractions, these little hikes. They call them hikes probably on all trails, but really just turn-offs where you can go out and soak in the views of the Badlands. And like I said, there are some longer hikes, and I think you can do backcountry camping here. And at some point, I will make that happen. I'd love to do a night or two out in the Badlands. That would be pretty cool. And even though I couldn't really hike, the drive was spectacular. My head was on a swivel looking at all the different rock formations. I was trying to use offline maps on Gaia GPS. It's kind of gone downhill in the last year or two. You could see I'm driving off the edge of the map here, but luckily my Apple Maps offline maps worked and I was able to do some routing as I drove through and checked out some more of these little roadside hikes and attractions here. I only had a little bit of sunlight left, and I stopped at the last hike, the Cliff Shelf Nature Trail. Now, I stopped here because I wanted to test out Apple Maps' new hiking directions. They have them for the national parks here in the United States, and it was okay. It was a lot like walking directions in Apple Maps, basically walking directions, not integrated with the workout, so you have to switch between your workout app and your Maps app if you want to navigate. Not a big deal. It works okay. I'll make a video on this in the future, let you know how it works and if you want to use it yourself. But instead of fooling around with this, I wish I was looking around more because this is another beautiful hike with some beautiful views of the Badlands. Thanks so much for coming along with me, guys. Hopefully you had as much fun watching as I did making this video. Got to bag 2 new peaks and explore some beautiful, beautiful areas here. And now I got to boogie back to the airport to catch my flight back to Southern California. So if you want to see more of these, I got some more high points coming up. So thanks for everyone who watches, supports the channel. I couldn't do it without you. And I'm going to go before I freeze in this wind. It's cold. All right. I'll see you on the next one.